Okay, so we're diving into a story today that's just, well, it's about raw power, really, and incredible resistance. Picture this specific moment for me. You've got Lily Parr, undisputed, the greatest female footballer of her whole generation, a scoring machine, netted over 900 career goals. Think about that number. And she's helping her team raise like millions for charities after the war. Vital work. Now picture her right at the peak of this talent. She's just 16 years old. And the governing body of English football, the FA, they just issued this decree: women's soccer banned completely, declared it unsuitable for females. I mean, that's the story, Lily Parr. It's just this immediate, really shocking testament to an unstoppable spirit, isn't it? We're looking at a life that became a kind of beacon, really, for anyone who's ever been told, no, you can't play here, especially in a space they actually helped build. You just can't ignore that kind of defiance.
Exactly. That fire, that defiance, that's what we're unpacking today. Think of this deep dive as your shortcut to understanding not just the stats, the goals, but the real legacy. We're looking at how she took this direct hit, this institutional block like a hammer blow, aimed right at her passion, and she somehow turned it into this international platform.
Right.
Changed history. And the core question really boils down to this: when the world, the establishment, says no, how loud, how persistent will your yes actually roar?
Okay, let's unpack that. Where did she even come from? Lily Parr, born 1905, St. Helens, Lancashire, right in the industrial heartland. The sources, they paint this picture. Childhood spent basically on muddy streets, working class area. Even before she was playing professional, and she was already pushing boundaries just by playing football at all.
Absolutely. And you have to set the scene a bit. This was an era where football was just fundamentally seen as the working man's game. That was the phrase. Women playing. That was considered, well, strange at best, maybe a bit of a sideshow. But Lily, she apparently didn't care much for labels. She just got on with it, kicking a ball with her brothers, developing that incredible power really early on.
And it wasn't just like physical endurance. Her skill was something else entirely. When we talk about that powerful left foot, the sources keep saying it struck the ball harder than a hammer blow. I mean, that detail alone is pretty legendary, right?
It really is. But what's super important here is the timing. When did she emerge? It was during what some historians call the golden moment for women's football, right around the end of World War I. Why golden? Well, women had kept the factories going during the war, right? And these factory teams, these women's teams, became incredibly popular. Huge charity attractions. Dick Kerr's Ladies, that's the famous team she played for, they started at a railway engineering company. And they were pulling in crowds of like 30, 50, even 60,000 people. That was way more than many men's professional clubs were getting at the time. This wasn't some niche thing, it was huge. A massive, successful cultural phenomenon. And Lily Parr, with all those goals, she was the global superstar right in the middle of it. That title, the most brilliant female footballer in the world, she earned it, no question.
So you've got this massive organic success, talent, public enthusiasm driving it, which leads us right into the conflict, doesn't it? Because that success, it clearly challenged the existing male-dominated order.
It's exactly right. And this is the mechanism, the factual bit we need to grasp. 1921, the Football Association, the FA, the body controlling the big stadiums, the infrastructure, they issued this devastating ban. And they didn't even pretend the women weren't skilled. The specific charge, like you said, was that football was quite unsuitable for females and ought not to be encouraged. Just unsuitable.
It's the coldness of it, the bureaucratic weight. That's what gets me. They didn't just say you can't play. They banned them from using any ground affiliated with FA member clubs. So boom, locked out of all the major stadiums, pushed right back to playing in parks and, basic fields overnight.
And think about it. Lily was 16. She'd found this legitimate path, professional career, global fame, even financial independence through her pure talent. Then, just like that, a ruling based on some outdated idea of propriety just rips it all away. This wasn't just inconvenient. It was like a professional execution of the entire women's game infrastructure. It really was her crucible. That moment where she had to decide, okay, do I just accept this or do I fight?
And she fought. She definitely didn't comply. But the question is how? How do you actually fight a massive institution like the FA when they control all the places you need to play? What did Dick Kerr's Ladies do?
They pivoted straight away. Since they couldn't play on official grounds in England, they looked outwards. They took the whole show international. They booked these major tours across North America, the US, Canada. It was an incredibly bold move, really audacious for the time. They basically realized, okay, if the FA won't let us showcase our success here, we'll become this global touring exhibition. We'll market ourselves internationally and their impact overseas. Staggering. They often played against men's teams and drew huge crowds there too. These weren't just like feel-good tours, they were massive fundraising operations. They raised millions for charity, generated international headlines. Lily's powerful play, especially when she was up against male players, that was the big draw. It ignited newspapers, kept her reputation sky high as the best in the world.
Wow. So the FA ban, which was meant to kill the sport's popularity, actually sort of forced it onto the world stage. It inadvertently globalized women's football as this act of defiance.
That's exactly the takeaway. Analytically speaking, these women, they became warriors, didn't they? Planting seeds for a future they probably knew they wouldn't fully see themselves. They just refused to let some dusty protectionist rule define how great they could be. Their tours proved it. The demand was there, the talent was there, the commercial potential was there. Didn't matter what the English FA decided in some boardroom.
But, you know, the defiance on the pitch, that was only one fight she was waging, wasn't it? If we dig a bit deeper into her life, we shift from the professional ban to the personal prejudice. An equally tough arena, you could argue.
Yeah, and this is where Lily's story gets really fundamental. Not just sports history, but social history. She was fighting this double rebellion. It wasn't just about rebelling against gender norms. Women shouldn't be physical, shouldn't be competitive athletes. She was also pushing back against these really deep-seated social taboos about identity, about love. Lily lived openly with her partner, Mary, for decades. In 20th century England, we absolutely have to remember what that meant back then. This was a time when being openly gay faced just intense social scorn and risks. Forget just legal trouble later on. The immediate threat was social ruin. Losing your job, being completely ostracized, especially in a pretty rigid working class environment.
It's fascinating, though, how her public fame seemed to interact with that private life. You'd think her high visibility would make her more of a target, right? But it seems like her undeniable skill almost created this shield of respect.
Precisely. Her visibility, combined with this, unapologetic pride she seemed to have, it turned her life into what one source called a lighthouse through fog and rain. That's a powerful image. She was in hiding. She was out there, celebrated for her incredible talent, while also quietly but fiercely living her authentic life. That level of just being herself back in the 1920s, the 30s, that was an extraordinary political act, even if she never framed it that way. But just being herself, she helped normalize the very presence of strong, independent, queer women in the public eye. Her personal courage really amplified the political weight of her professional defiance. She was breaking barriers on two fronts at the same time: gender roles in sport and acceptance for LGBTQ+ identity.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, for anyone listening? When your professional life maybe asks you to conform in certain ways, how much fiercer do you have to be to protect your true self, your private identity? Lily Parr showed that sometimes protecting that identity is the greatest victory.
Absolutely, and it speaks to the whole picture of her legacy, doesn't it? It's not just the goals tally.
So let's bring this incredible story full circle. Let's look at the long-term impact. Lily Parr passed away in 1978, but she did live long enough to see the very first stirrings of the world she fought for, that FA ban. It was finally overturned in 1971, 50 years. 50 long years after it was imposed. So she saw the rule that basically crushed her professional prime finally get dismantled. And even though the women's game had to pretty much rebuild from zero, she witnessed that initial institutional surrender.
And that surrender eventually led to formal recognition. It took way too long, obviously. But in 2002, Lily Parr was inducted into the English Football Hall of Fame. That was a landmark moment. She was the first woman ever to receive that honor. That decision, decades after she stopped playing, it really cements her status, not as some fluke, but as a foundational pillar of the entire sport. But if you zoom out even further, her legacy is, well, more profound than any plaque on a wall, right? And it's like these invisible threads woven right into the fabric of modern women's football.
Yeah.
When you watch the Women's Super League today, or you see these massive sold-out stadiums for the World Cup or the Euros, you are looking at the direct result of the non-compliance, the sheer stubbornness of the Dick, Kerr's ladies, and Lily Parr.
This is the world that she and her teammates literally kicked into existence. It wasn't handed to them. They had to aggressively force it into being through talent, through travel, through just pure grit.
The synthesis is pretty clear, I think. Her life story is more than just that amazing metric, over 900 goals. Her whole saga is like a blueprint for radical perseverance. She showed that when institutional power tries to box you in, define your limits, one person's unwavering defiance can actually reshape reality for generations to come. Change isn't just theoretical, it's forged by people who refuse to shut up even when the fight takes half a century.
So, what does all this mean for you listening right now? I think the core lesson is that the toughest battles, the most defining ones, they're often fought on two fronts. There's the visible external fight, like the FA ban, and then there's that internal battle for self respect, for authenticity. We all operate under rules, right? Some spoken, some unspoken. In our jobs, our social circles, maybe even limits we put on ourselves. So, what rules are telling you to just obey right now? Which bans, professional, social, maybe even personal, are just waiting for your powerful, furious no?
Yeah, take that spirit of Lily Parr with you. That incredible left foot that broke barriers, sure, but also that fearless soul that just insisted on living true, even when facing scorn. Let her story challenge you. Ask yourself this. Really sit with it. What extraordinary, maybe even game-changing thing will you dare to do, despite whatever odds are stacked against you? What lasting, fundamental change could your defiance birth in the world you live in?
Because the greatest victories, they don't